on 11th of December, only on Bloomberg Quint.
Okay, back with Bloomberg Quint, and the markets seem to be digesting this piece of news, both pieces of news very well. Bring up the Nifty. It's marginally slipped into the positive as well. This is a very a surprising reaction, if I use that term, to both Urjit Patel moving out and the way the state assembly election verdict seems to be going right now, Harsha. And it'll be best to get in market perspective on this. So let's get started with Mr. Dhananjay Sinha of Emkay Global Financial Services. He joins us right now on the show to talk about that. Dhananjay, good having you. Thanks so much for joining in. I know you keep a keen eye out on banking and the broader macro economy, and we'll come to Urjit Patel as well. But the reaction that the equity markets have given, one, to Urjit Patel's quote-unquote surprise resignation, and two, the assembly election verdict, the way it is coming out right now. Your initial thoughts?
So I think we'll have to really see how it sort of pans out going forward. I think possibly this news on the election possibly is somewhat digested, because there has been a sort of a correction in the markets since the recent peak of let's say Nifty at 10,900 or thereabout, and it has come down to 10,400. So I think there is a certain amount of correction that has already been there. So that is one reason possibly some of these news are not creating as much of a negative reaction, though initially today we saw that the market reacted negatively. So that's an important thing, I would say, with respect to how the market has behaved today. But I think it will still take some time before it really seeps in, because I think the complication with respect to RBI is going to linger on. The issues are serious, and also the verdict, if it goes against the BJP, also is something that will have a repercussion for the general election in 2019, which is May 2019. So there is a lot more things that will happen from now on, so which the market will sort of look at going forward.
Dhananjay, one question about, for global investors who are looking to India, who saw the drama that played out last evening with Governor Patel quitting, right. There are two questions. One is that the government and the RBI will have to do a significant number of steps to restore confidence. To your mind, do you expect the markets to be extremely volatile in this period? We're also getting into election season. We got 3 months or 3 or 4 months before we get into election season. And from the indications of the state election numbers, thus far, it's not making it very clear whether this is going to be a cakewalk for the BJP in 2019 either. So both these uncertainties, how do you think a global investor is going to look at India?
So I think first and foremost, I think who will replace Dr. Urjit Patel is a very important thing. I think are there more resignations after Dr. Urjit Patel's exit is something that people will watch, and especially the foreign investors would watch this. And I think it is important in the immediate term who is replacing Dr. Patel. So I think this is a very important thing investors are looking at. People are considering are sort of fearing that you might actually get a sort of governor who may not be as knowledgeable in running the central bank management. So that is one concern. But the hope is that you might actually, the government might take this more seriously and sort of appoint somebody who can take independent view and kind of establish the independence of the central bank. So that is the hope. I think the choice will determine how the central bank will move on and how the markets look at it. At this juncture, there are a lot of issues on the table for the RBI to resolve, and those are fairly open. Those issues are fairly open. It ranges from taking away the reserves, part of the reserves of RBI to fund fiscal needs. It also includes the PCA thing, whether the RBI should be liberal and give more forbearances to them. So that's another thing that sort of that is for the PSU banks, and basically the government's objective would be to allow some liberty to them so that these banks can sort of address some of the distress that is seen across MSME sector, across farm sectors, that is having electoral implication for the present government. So I think that's another issue, and there are a host of other issues. With respect to, there is a proposal for a separate regulator for the payment banks. Those are issues which RBI has actually sort of resisted. So I think these issues are there. Whosoever comes as the new governor, what is the position he takes in the next board meeting? The next board meeting is on 14th. I think there are new issues that will be brought in the next meeting, because the 19th November meeting had 4 issues that were deliberated upon. So there are other issues that will be there, also including the supervisory power given to the central board of the RBI. So there are a host of issues that are there. The new governor will, whosoever is a replacement, his standing on or position on these issues will matter a lot on how the RBI is sort of managed going forward. So I think from a market standpoint, this is a very crucial sort of scenario, because I think the credibility of the central bank is very important in terms of financial market stability.
So Dhananjay, how do you view what happens here on? One, I mean, did you in your morning meeting anticipate that we could actually have the Nifty in the green sometime today? Because frankly, in our morning meeting, we quite didn't anticipate this. And 2, if the Reserve Bank, the new appointee and the calls taken later on don't quite veer off course, then do you think that there is a chance of the markets completely towing the line only of the global markets and the local factors won't matter too much?
So I think that is a very important point that you have just said. I think global factor is very, very important, because the rally from mid of October that we saw till early November was also sort of based on what was happening globally, which is basically that you had crude price actually correcting from $84 to 60, and rupee sort of appreciated, and Indian yields fell along with the way the global yields have changed, especially with expectations of the market on Fed being changed. So they are they're considering Fed to be less hawkish, or at least they would stop sort of normalizing or increasing rates. So I think those things have actually fed into our markets also, across equities, bonds and FX as well. So I think that's a very important thing. And I think from I would say 3rd of October onwards, there has been a correction along with similar kind of movement across global markets. So I think that's a very important thing to really consider. My sense is that the market may have considered Jerome Powell's speech as dovish, but he is actually not. So there is a misreading out there, and hence we think that the normalization path that Fed has actually talked about, they will continue to glide down that path. So effectively that means that some of the global factors with respect to global liquidity might actually be on the tightening side rather than on the easing side, as the market is actually interpreted. So I think there is a change in view that the market will be exposed to. So overall, considering the domestic and global factors, I would say that volatility level can continue to be on the higher side going forward as we move into 2019.
Okay. Dhananjay, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much, indeed, for joining us with your perspective. That's Dhananjay Sinha from Emkay talking about the markets and where they're headed. We're also going to be joined by Vallabh Bansali very shortly. But this is an interesting time that this morning one would have thought, Neeraj, that given the barrage of bad news that we woke up to, both on the governor's side and the exit polls, you would have thought the market taking it on the chin a lot more than it actually has, hasn't it?
Well, I think a lot of people would be eating their words. I mean, I didn't proclaim, but I did think too that the possibilities of the markets moving down are a lot higher. But hey, For now, a lot of beaten down names bouncing back and a lot more names in the green, Harsha. That's the big surprise.
Okay. Take a look at where the markets are at this juncture. As Dhananjay was very clearly pointing out, global investors have been going to be watching out for two things. One, who the next governor of the Reserve Bank of India is going to be, what steps are going to be taken to restore the confidence and the stability in the system, and thirdly, of course, the results of these state elections and what they mean for Prime Minister Modi's re-election in 2019. All right, let's just get in Vallabh Bansali into this conversation.
I think we'll do that after the break, Harsha.
Okay.
Just take a very quick break, come back on the note that the markets are taking this a lot more positive. Be back from the break with a very important market voice in Vallabh Bansali.